In this edition of Voices, we talk to Shweta Bhatt, wife of former Gujarat IPS officer Sanjiv Bhatt. In June 2019, Sanjiv Bhatt was sentenced to life imprisonment by Jamnagar Sessions Court in Gujarat after he was found guilty in a custodial death case dating back 30 years. Bhatt was posted in the Jamnagar district of Gujarat when the local police detained more than 130 people in order to control a riot. One of the detainees died of kidney failure after he was hospitalized. The case against Sanjiv Bhatt and 6 other police officers was lodged by the brother of the deceased. Human rights activists have pointed out that the man had died much after he was released from police custody and that the case was registered 18 days after that. There was no mention of physical violence or torture in his autopsy report. Sanjiv Bhatt had been critical of the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's alleged role in the deadly anti-Muslim riots of 2002, when Modi was the Chief Minister of Gujarat, where the riots took place. Sanjiv had alleged that Chief Minister Modi told officials that Hindus should be allowed to vent their anger against Muslims. More than 1,000 people, mostly Muslims, were killed in the carnage that followed. Sanjiv was sacked from the police in 2015 after being under suspension since 2011, which was just after he had filed an affidavit in the Supreme Court about the role of Narendra Modi in the 2002 Gujarat riots. Shweta Bhatt, welcome to our program and thank you for joining us. We'll come back to the case a bit later, but please tell us, how are you and the family? How have you been holding up?
It's a very difficult fight. It's a very uneven fight, I would rather say. On one side is the government fully equipped with power, money, all the institutions at their side. And on one side, I am the only one with my 2 kids fighting this case. A battery of lawyers come to the court, 15, 20 of them for one single hearing whenever our case is on. And I have only one lawyer, that to a very close friend. Otherwise, lawyers in Gujarat absolutely deny taking up our case because they are afraid of the political bosses. So this is the sin that we are fighting for. I have to shuttle from Jamnagar to Palanpur to Ahmedabad to Delhi, sit with lawyers, draft the petitions, help them in it, putting all the facts, giving all the papers, going through translations. Because if we have to go to the Supreme Court, I need to translate all the papers which are in Gujarati in Gujarat. So lots of work, yes, and a work which I'm not used to. So this all came on my shoulder, and I have to do it. So that's it. And but we are a strong and brave family of a strong man. So yes, we'll keep on fighting, and I'll do whatever I have to bring my husband home. So that's a thing.
And your son and daughter have been living overseas. So, what sort of contact do you and your children have with Sanjeev?
Due to COVID, my son and daughter, turn by turn, they try and come back to me because everything, teaching and everything has been online since 6 months, 8 months now. So that has been a sort of blessing for me in a way. Otherwise, whenever there is a court date in Palanpur, we have to go there and we meet Sanjeev there only. So there are, maybe he recently, before a month or so, he has been allowed to call us twice a week. So we talk to him on phone for 5 minutes. So, but that calls are also recorded. So there are certain things which I need to ask him, or if he needs to tell me regarding the cases or strategy or whatever it is. So I have to go to the court. Uh, Meeting him there, what we say is mulakat, which is usually given to the prisoners. But as far as my husband is concerned, the rules are very stringent, and they make it very ugly and difficult as much as they can. So yeah, there are difficulties in meeting him.
So you're saying it's very rare, or you are not allowed to meet him at all in prison. Is that what is happening?
they make things very difficult and ugly. So at the end of the thing, you yourself decide, okay, it's okay, we'll meet on court only, rather than going there.
Mhm.
So,
And please tell how Sanjeev is doing, how he himself is doing.
as I said again, he's a very strong man. But I constantly believe that this is not the way his strength has to be measured. He has his routine, he keeps exercising, he's mentally and physically very fit. And that's it. He's as good as he can be in such circumstances.
Mhm.
What else?
And
He's not yet being allowed a bed. So they do so petty things to mentally, derail him or mentally make him weak. So, but I don't think so that would affect him. No bed, no table chair, even if he wants to write something. So,
mhm.
so difficult.
And you've been married for what, more than 35 years now, isn't it? And so please take us through what your life has been before Sanjeev decided to speak up, and then how it has changed since he did speak up.
Mm,
It may be
It
hard,
has
but
been 35 years. Yes, 35 years is a long time. And I was 21 and he was 22 when we decided to get married. 23, he was an ASP in Jamnagar district. The case which we are talking about was his first posting, hardly 15, 17 days of his posting, full of life and idealism and honesty, and will do this and that and will improve the society. And what he thought always was that if you're honest, if your integrity is good, if you're doing your work properly, if you're not doing this chaplacy business, and if you're brave enough to handle any situation, then I think you can be a good police officer. But I think that those are not the qualifications anymore right now in the present circumstances. And it is because of his this quality of saying truth is the reason of his incarceration right now. So yes, it has been a difficult time, but otherwise, he's a complete family man, a very excellent father, excellent husband. He's a very upright officer, an honest officer. So life was good. It was going good. We were doing our work diligently. So, and the
mhm,
thing is, like, mm, since 21, I have grown up with him. We have both been growing together, So our likes, dislikes, decisions, whatever, so they're so alike. So when he decided to depose before the commission, or when he decided to file this affidavit, so I always agreed with him. And I always thought that if I were in his place, I would have done the same thing. So there was no reason of conflict at all. And I've always stood by him. I fully have faith in him. So,
so, there,
yes.
so there have been reports of constant harassment and threats against Sanjeev and the family. Sanjeev's security, which was basically ordered by Supreme Court,
Yes.
was suddenly withdrawn. A part of your ancestral home was demolished in 2018, and you and your son Shantanu were involved in a bizarre road accident, which still remains unresolved. So, please give us an idea of what the family has been going through, and since Sanjeev decided to speak up.
This is the situation. As you can see, almost everything, whatever has happened to us. And even right now, like, we are being constantly followed. I am definitely sure our phones must be tapped. And I always come to one thing. Why are they so much afraid of Sanjeev Bhatt? That is the question that always haunts me. If you are right, if you say that you have nothing to do with this, then why are you afraid of a single police officer? Up karo na, you investigate na. What is wrong in it? Whatever he says is true. Everything has come out in open. Riots to riots, yes, there were riots. It was a uh, I mean, the government was responsible for it, either by design or by what we say, incompetence, whatever. But there were riots; they were bad. So, what is the thing like? Why are
Mhm.
you hellbound on destroying a man's life, destroying an officer's career, his family? Why this vengeance? Why this political vendetta? So strong, constantly for so many years. Why? That this is a question which constantly haunts me, and it should haunt each and every one. So the answer is bizarre.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And so coming to the verdict of the Jamnagar Sessions Court that sentenced Sanjeev to life imprisonment, do you think it's a case of political vendetta, and your husband did not receive a fair trial? I mean, or do you think the judicial process is compromised?
It was a miscarriage of justice, I would say. It was. We were not allowed a single defense witness. Why? How can any judicial trial or a process end without allowing a single defense witness? Even the witnesses which they called, they said that we have 300 people as witnesses. Ultimately, they called only 29 of them. And out of them, not a single person who was relevant to the case, not a single officer was called who investigated the case, not a single doctor who gave the reports. So why? There were people who took file from one room to another and they were called. So why this? The process was not proper. We have been in the Supreme Court saying that it was a total mistrial and we need to have a proper trial. The case is pending in the Supreme Court since 2.5 years now, and our matter is not getting listed. Even today, it is not getting listed. In the meantime, we get they pronounce the judgment, and we get punished by the crime which my husband never committed. It's a false trial, trial which was just to frame my husband in it. The case which has nothing to do with him. The people they are talking about is my husband never ever. They were never in his custody. He never arrested them. He never interrogated any one of them. There is not a single medical report saying anything about the external internal injury. No postmortem reports are in his favor. I mean uh, the man who died in his favor. No histopathological report, nothing, no evidence, not a single evidence is there. The man dies 18 days after he's released on bail. So how can you? I mean, there is nothing which points that my husband was responsible for this. No, he has been completely framed in this. And
Mm.
it's a total political vendetta.
Mhm. I had another question. This case has been in Gujarat, Jamnagar Sessions Court since 1990, isn't it? And um, was there a change in Gujarat government's position towards or attitude towards Sanjeev in relation to this? Because I believe initially the government was defending the police officers and Sanjeev in this case. So did it change after he chose to speak out?
Yes, the government took a U-turn from 2011 after he filed an affidavit and after he deposed before the commission, various commissions, Minority Commission, Nanavati Mehta Commission, SIT, so on. This case was investigated. This case happened in 1990. It was investigated by CID crime, and they investigated for quite some 2 years or so, and they came up with a report that there is no police officers were involved in it. Especially Sanjeev had no role in it, and a summary report was filed, and the case was closed in 1994-95. It was closed. These people, after my husband deposed before the commission, the government reopened a 30-year-old case, which itself is wrong. According to Section 161 by the Bombay Police Act, because Gujarat still follows Bombay Police Act, if the government has any grievance against any officer whatsoever on duty, then they have a right, no doubt, to have legal actions against him, but that is in a stipulated period of 2 years, not beyond that. Otherwise, each government, passing governments, because governments come and go, officers stay. So it is for the safety of the police officers that this rule is there. How can you open an already investigated and closed case after 30 years? So that speaks volumes, in fact. Was,
Mhm.
yeah, and the government then they had never even given the sanction against 197. It has to be like if you want to prosecute a police officer or any officer, you have to take that sanction from the government. It was never granted by the government before. And why such a U-turn?
Mhm.
The In the morning, 11 o'clock, he deposes, and the same evening, this case is reopened.
Mm.
So yes,
Okay, and it was a case of custodial death. Did Sanjeev have a history of mistreatment of prisoners or abuse or violence against prisoners? In the absence of any evidence, was there any other history of such acts?
but he was superintendent of police in the Sabarmati jail. And when he was transferred out, first time in the history of India and maybe in the history of world, I think so, 4,000 prisoners went on a hunger strike for 4 to 5 days. That has never happened before. Many tried to commit suicide just because Sanjeev was transferred. And what did he do that? He gave a very humane treatment to the prisoners. He saw to their small needs which were being disregarded before. He gave them good food, clean environment. He gave them legal advice and he provided for advocates, whatever. So he is that sort of a person. I would just tell you one incident. Once a woman comes to the prison, say before, like she comes in the evening after that mulakat time is over, and she insisted that I would like to meet my husband. I'm coming from far off, and I have a small child, and I have come here 3 4 times, but cannot make it, in time. So the subedar who was outside comes and tells my husband, okay, there is a woman. So he said, okay, call her in. He makes sure that she sits in his office. Her husband was called, and you can take hold of your child, because the child was 2 months old. The husband had never seen the child. And so in his presence, he makes sure that, okay, you meet your husband. And so this is the type of a person he is. He
Mhm.
has been constantly very polite, very kind, yet honest and diligent. So, and this man dies 18 days after. He is a rioter. He was arsoning. He was arsoning the mosque and the houses of the Muslim community. And when rioters are arrested, their medical history is not taken. So, and again, this man was arrested by the local police. Again, if we come to the scenario, they were all 133 people were arrested by the local police. It was his 17th day of his first posting. How can he have a history? I don't understand that. Hardly 23 and a half year old police officer.
Mhm.
And he was so new to the place. So he had nothing, like nobody knew him. He knew nobody. So there is no point of him having grievances against anybody or anybody having grievances against him. So that is the case. And why all of these things happen after he deposes, after so many years of his services? So there are so many
Mhm.
questions.
Yes. Um, Sanjeev was also he was suspended in 2011 and then dismissed from his job in 2015 from unauthorized absence for work. I mean, do you think it was part of the vendetta? Give us an idea of what exactly may have happened then.
He was deposing before the commissions. The absence of leave, what they are saying, the government is saying, is the time Sanjeev was posted at Junagadh at that time. He used to come to Ahmedabad to be deposed before the commissions. That was not digested by them. So this 2011, 2012, I contested the election against Mr. Narendra Modi. So, and his affidavit came out in 2011. He deposed. So the first step they took instantly was to reopen all the old cases and dismiss him. Then 2014, the then CM becomes the PM. And what he does first is to suspend him from his duties, dismiss him from his duties. So this is a political vendetta, nothing else.
Mhm. And of course, the persons Sanjeev has taken on were the two most powerful men in Gujarat then, and are the two most powerful men in India now.
Yes.
Um, Give us an idea of what your experience with the court process has been. We are aware that it's been more than 3 years now, and you've been working hard. There's been a lot of
Still fighting,
community. Um,
still fighting for
mhm. I
3 years, and still I'm not getting bail.
mhm.
That is the thing.
What has been your experience in the courts? I mean, can you give us an idea what happens when there's a hearing or when you file in an application? Is the delays? Give us an idea of how unusually things are being pushed back and how long it is taking for you to be heard.
Mm. First, though, there are a battery of lawyers representing the government. The cases which were between the complainant, private complainant, and Sanjiv Bhatt has now become state versus Sanjiv Bhatt all of a sudden. So that is the scenario. Uh, Suppose if a particular judge is there which has a reputation of being neutral, then something happens. I don't know what, but it has happened so many times that his services are changed. All of a sudden, the judge gets changed, and our matter falls under the same judge, which they prefer, in fact, which has what we say a political what we say that they are leaning towards BJP or towards the government. So that is one thing. Either the judge says not before me. After hearing for several days, the judge would definitely say that not before me. Uh, each and every matter takes a very long time for listing, for coming up of hearing. Our three matters are there in the Gujarat High Court since 3 months now, and the judgment is still not being pronounced. So our matter is there in the Supreme Court saying that we were not given a fair trial. We should be heard for that. It is still pending. It is 2.5 years, and our matter is still not getting listed.
Mhm.
So,
So you
yes.
say and Sanjeev, and you are not getting a fair trial, have faced miscarriage of justice. Um, what do you feel about the people of India generally who have just seen and looked the other way? Do you think people could have done more, especially the police community? Have they demonstrated any support for one of their own?
People in India are scared. This government thrives on fear and greed. That is what my personal opinion is. Uh, the more you are scared, the more stronger it becomes, the government. So everybody here, they are afraid of talking, they are afraid of meeting, they are even afraid of uh, showing support at times. But yes, police officers, lots of them, people from India, people from outside, everybody is showing their support. Officers, they don't come out in open, yes, but they do call me on their personal phones and all that thing. And at times they're ashamed of their behavior as well. So that is the thing. See, anybody I meet, any journalist or an interviewer, two questions are constantly there. They ask me is, do you think you will get justice in India and Gujarat? So that is one question.
Mm.
Do you think you will get justice till this government is on? So that is a second question. The answer is in the question itself, so I need not answer them. But yes, these are the two questions which are constant. And everybody knows. Everybody knows what is happening, what has happened to us is wrong, who Sanjiv Bhatt is, and why is he being incarcerated for a crime which he never committed. So yes, it's all in open. But I would rather say that people outside India, see, you are not supposed to be scared because you're outside India. They cannot do anything to you. So the more responsibility lies on people who are not in India. And I would wish that you make the most out of it and defend the defenders in whatever way you can, because he fought fearlessly. He did whatever he had to without thinking of the consequences. He did for his country whatever was right and whatever was honest in his mind. So now it is our time to stand by him, make his voice louder and clear, and more so for the people who are staying outside India.
So, who do you think is responsible for this? Is it Modi? Is it Shah? Is it BJP? Is it the Indian government? Or is it a very compliant judiciary that just wants to keep the people in power, or people Sanjeev spoke against happy, or doesn't want to displease them?
My husband is the sole surviving witness of the genocide, which happened in 2002 riots. So that is the, which this case leads directly to Narendra Modi. That is again another thing. Once Haren Pandya spoke about all this thing, and he is no more today. Now it is just Sanjiv Bhatt, sole surviving. So I think you can make out.
Well, Shweta Bhatt, I want to thank you for your time and appreciate what you are doing to get justice for Sanjiv Bhatt, and wish you the very best. Thank you for talking about it. Thank you.
Thanks. Pleasure is mine. Thank you.